No, no. So for those of you who don't know by now, I'm Tiffany Eckhart with Flynn the Coop. I am a master of reinvention and a certified life coach. And I'm here with my good friend, Dawn Gardner, working author, indie publisher. I'm so excited that we're sharing our book club with the world today as a celebration of our 2-year friendship and all
I'm
the
excited.
Yep. So if you're joining us live, I'm going to try to keep up with likes and comments and stuff. So we want this to be interactive. So send us your questions as we go. We're an open book, so to say. So to get started, Dawn, let's tell everybody like how we met. So we both went to UPW, but we did not meet there. So
right, which UPW is an acronym for Unleash the Power Within, which is the Tony Robbins event. So that was my first Tony Robbins event. And I think it was yours as well, right?
My first Tony Robbins event as well. Yeah. Do you remember why you went to that UPW? Unleash the Power Within?
You know, I saw Tony's about a year and a half before that. I saw Tony's Netflix special, I'm Not Your Guru. And
I saw that too.
I was blown away. And I thought, you know, I want to get there one day. I want to get to an event. I want to experience a Tony Robbins event in person. And so that's when the timing kind of just magically happened. And I was able to go. So,
yeah. I had just closed my antique store. So I was looking to be motivated onto something new. And I remember telling some friends of mine that I was going to go somehow. I was going to figure out how to go to a Tony Robbins event. And, you know, lucky for us that we did get to go before, you know,
because
stopped.
That was March of 2019. So,
right. And so after the event, I remember getting on a Facebook group, and I think you were on it too. And I posted something about reading Think and Grow Rich, and you reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to do this together?
Because I loved your energy. You were just so spunky. I kept seeing your post all through the group. I thought, I got to get to know this chick. And you were reaching out to say, hey, is anybody interested in reading this book? And I messaged you that very day and said, oh yeah, I'm interested. And we decided to read it chapter by chapter, because I've read Think and Grow Rich multiple times, but never taking it that slow before.
And I actually like that we do it that way, because you don't gloss over anything, really. You really dig in deep to the books that we read by doing it that way. So I guess the rest is history, right? After that first book that we read together, we're like, what's the next one? What's the next one?
Well, and it's funny because, you know, there were quite a few people at that event, and for us to meet after the fact I thought was pretty cool. But one little note, I wanted to say something for Think and Grow Rich. And I don't know if this is going against our little schedule we have, but I guess all bets are off anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But Think and Grow Rich, just the title, I think is so misleading about what the book is actually about. Because I think it's kind of one of those cheesy titles. I mean, it was true. It was written what, in the 1940s, I think, or 1930s. But you know, the title I think is kind of a misleading. Yeah, here's mine. I got, look at this. Look at all the sticky tabs.
Yeah, I underlined the crap out of mine.
Yeah. Well, no, and I underlined too, but these were just sticky tabs that I put in for easy to find things. So I think it's a book about life. I don't think it's necessarily just about money, which sometimes people get that impression that it's just about getting rich financially, with nothing wrong with that. But
no, nothing wrong with that. In fact, you know, that's part of it, is getting past money limitations in your mind. But, you know, it's about who you hang around with too, right? Like it's who
yes.
you allow into your world. And so some of the things that they ask you to do in this book, or Napoleon Hill asks you to do, is think of the boardroom. And that's stuck with me. Yeah, as one of the many things that stuck with me. So like I have an imaginary boardroom.
A board of directors, like you go and you call your meeting to order. And who's one person that's on your board of directors? Oh, you said we were going to share. Martha Stewart. Okay. Oh, that's good.
Who's on yours?
Okay, like so Claude Monet is on mine. Yeah. One of the few. I mean, well, him and Van Gogh are both on board of directors. Yeah. I think it's a fun thing.
It is a fun thing, and it expands your mind, right? So let's talk about the books that we read.
Okay,
that's been a major part of our friendship. So the first one was Think and Grow Rich,
right?
And then the next one, I believe, was the Energy Codes. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. Which
Energy Codes. Sue Morter. For me, when I think about this book, I think about learning how to breathe through all of your chakras, and learning how to really, let the energy flow through.
Yeah. And, there's so many different elements to this book, the spiritualness of what we're coming to do here, a purpose. But I think this book is really good to read with someone. Yeah, because there are a couple of books that we did in our 2 years of reading books together that were I don't want to say academic, but they were dense with knowledge and scientific knowledge. And it was so nice to say, okay, what did you get? Because this was a little tough for me to gather what the meaning was. And then we would both come with meaning from what we gathered, from the chapters we read, but also, which I found so fulfilling, were the stories that we would come with, related to whatever it was we were reading, which I think really helped cement some of the more denser books, which this one I would consider, the Energy Codes, a little bit more of a
high on science.
Yeah, high on science. I like that.
Okay, so we'll keep on rolling here.
Okay.
The next one, I think, was Our
Goddess.
Oh,
yeah. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, I forgot to bring mine, but yes.
Okay, can I say that she's on my board of directors?
Oh, she is. Wow.
I just decided to put her on. I forgot about that. No, I adore her. I think, I break one of her rules though. Like, I don't have a problem with telling people how old I am. I don't. I love birthdays. So
yeah. Well, she's so sassy. And I love the parts that she talks about sexuality in that book. It's really, really good. But it's an overall, it's almost like sitting down and having coffee with her.
Yeah.
It was a very conversational tone to that book. And it was very much about being a woman on a wholeness level, I'm not using the right word, but like all inclusive for all the things that we would encounter in being a woman. So I absolutely, not that you could be a man and read it too. It would still.
There are men that read it. Yeah. She posted pictures of this Dr. Tommy that has read it. I don't know if it was in the book or if we found it on her Instagram page while we were reading it, but my favorite story of her is she's in the kitchen making some kind of meal with her daughter or something, and she has her playlist going.
Oh yeah.
And it's all like rap and all this crazy stuff, and her daughter's like, Mom, what are you doing? And she goes, I have a rich inner life.
I do remember that. Yeah. And then I remember you started saying that after you're like, I'm going to have a rich inner life.
I have a rich inner life.
One of my favorite things is it was a section on food, but about tasting. She has a story about really getting your mindset and taking deep breaths. And, because a lot of times I think when we eat, we're just kind of like plowing through whatever the food we have. And so that chapter, and I forget what the name of that chapter was, but basically the premise was take your time. I mean, I've heard this before, but that was the thing about that book. I thought it was wonderful for the exercises that it allowed us to, it gave us things to do that were relevant to whatever we were studying. And that was pretty powerful to sit down and I did an apple in the book. I think she does a strawberry, but it really just taking your time and experiencing the food was a really good lesson. And I enjoyed it very much. So,
yeah.
And
no,
I love her
good.
Instagram. Her Instagram she's
controversial
funny
and fun.
Yeah, exactly.
She's what does she call herself? The warrior. I forget. Anyways,
a light warrior, I think, is one of her names. Yeah, one of her names for herself. But
I could go on and on about her because I just love her. But the next book we read is Ask and It Is Given.
Yes.
And this one, it was another one I underlined a lot. And I think my favorite thing that you pointed out to me from this book was when you're thinking about something you don't want, you go, now I know what I don't want. What I want is focus on what you want instead of what you don't want.
Yeah. And I go back to because it was funny because the Dr. Sue Mortimer's The Energy Codes book, that one seemed to be right playing the bones, if you will, or the structure. And then we read Ask and It Is Given, which was a recommendation, which is kind of interesting that some of our books come like the universe just kind of drops them in on our laps.
I think so. Yeah.
And this was one of those books that was dropped in our laps, so to speak. And I think this was kind of more like the emotional, kind of like the intuitiveness of the energy codes, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved was being reminded of the law of attraction, being reminded that if we keep sitting in a lack mentality, meaning we keep thinking about what we don't have or what we're missing, then more of that is attracted to you. And I mean, I know that's sometimes you think, well, okay, that's just common sense, you just know that. But knowing something and then practicing it are two different things. And I think I keep going back to different things we've learned throughout this 2 years and thinking, oh yeah, I remember I learned that. I need to practice that more. And I think I imagine that we'll probably we'll read some of these again because they are just that powerful.
Well, I mean, I think it's time to read Think and Grow Rich again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And highlighted in a different color this time, so we know which year we read it. Okay, so moving on to the next book, Becoming Supernatural, another very sciencey book, very sciencey. But I love this book. Okay, so the two things that I got, well, one major thing that I got out of it is the mind movie, and how marketers know this. They know when to send you messages. They know when your brain is most receptive to a message. And so we can use that on ourselves and watch the same image. Like both of us have created our own mind movie. And watch it every day, every morning. And it's just implanting those messages in our psyche so that we don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, it's part of us. Just like
it's
marketing.
Interesting because the mind movie is something that it's a collection of images for those that don't know. It's a collection of images that you've kind of compiled that resonate with you, make you happy. Like, I think we both have a clawfoot bathtub on our mind movies. Things that you want to accomplish, people that you love. I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? aspirations or inspirational quotes, things like that are also on there. And I watch mine every morning, and it just changes my state by watching it. So I love that I love that we got that from this book.
This book was one that you found somehow, serendipitously landed on your lap.
Do you want to know how I found it? I think I told you this, but you shared with me a podcast early on of a guy that was interviewing Joe Dispenza. And I thought, God, this guy is pretty cool. I'd like to read his book. So I bought the book right after you sent me that, which was probably early on in our book club. And I got it and I looked at it. I'm like, holy cow, this is really over my head at this point. I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for quite this kind of
a lot of
reading. But I geek out on it. But here's the thing. It was so much better reading it with you, because then we could say, hey, what did this mean or whatever. And I loved this book. I really did. I thought
I did too.
Just his story and how it's talking about healing yourself and the powers of your thoughts and what the actual science behind quantum physics and what your thoughts are. And so there's a lot of science in here, but it is a great read. I mean,
it is really good.
I learned so much.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yep, me too.
But the Mind movie was so fun to make, so that's one of the reasons I love it. Okay, so then we took a detour to this beautiful little book with this beautiful cover about a man's life that's just inspiring. The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, written basically for his family as a legacy, because he knew he was passing away with cancer. And it was just his life lessons, and it was beautiful.
And the book, the cover itself is so stunning, and it just the size of it. I couldn't even bear to write in the book, which is highly unusual for me. I'm like a scribbler, marker. I've got like all my different things that I do on a page to signify different levels of importance, but I could not even do anything on that book because it's so beautiful.
It was a beautiful story.
And it was very moving. And I think one time you did a post about being a kid, thinking about one of the biggest things that I took away from that book, The Last Lecture, was, really thinking about what were your goals as a kid. What were your goals? He has
a whole chapter in here about childhood dreams, and that really moved me, because I think at some point in our lives we lose touch with that childhood dreams. I mean, I guess it's just very common, to get caught up in everyday life and forget that but at our age, we have the freedom, right, to dig into them now that our children are gone, and we have a little bit of time and financial freedom to do that. So another thing I got out of that book was just this desire to leave a legacy, just a desire to, make sure I'm living a life that my kids will want to remember,
Oh, and I think another thing for that book was the value of living, the importance of remembering that this is a gift, that we're here, and not to squander it, but to live it. And I think through his words, and it's not a downer book either, because you would think, someone writing a last lecture that's going to die. I think it was pancreatic cancer. Is that what he had? Yes. So you would think, oh, that's going to be, a downer, but it was the exact opposite. It was very uplifting. And it reminds you that you should value your time here. So it was really good. I enjoyed that one.
Okay, so the book we're working on now, The Trance of Scarcity. This one's written like you're sitting in a living room with the author, and she's talking to you like like she's sitting right there. This is another book that landed in our laps, which I
Yes.
think, I at yoga, my yoga instructor Mia recommended it. I got it, and then we were both, was like, yes, we need to read this. I don't necessarily think we're learning anything new, but reinforcing what we have learned. It's just like a reinforcement.
Yeah. And like I said about, the knowledge, getting the knowledge, but then practicing it is really, really important. So I think this is kind of, and you're right, it is told in a very conversational tone. So it's kind of like we're getting to hit all the things that we learned in the other books, but almost like we're sitting down and having this conversation and reminding ourselves that, one of the things in here, the Trance of Scarcity was the circle analogy. I thought that was really a great way to look at things. And I'm a visual person. So to see myself within a circle of, she kind of describes it as a circle of light, of abundance, to see myself in that circle and actually do the visualizations that she talks about, I think this is very, very cool.
Yeah. And that we put ourselves into the circle. Like we are the ones that put ourselves in the circle. Nobody else puts us in there, right?
Take us out of the circle, right?
Right. Yeah. Which is more likely the case, right? And taking myself out of the circle again.
Yeah.
No,
get back in there.
There's a lot of grace in this book too. So it's not like you were beating yourself up over stuff that we're not doing or could be doing better. So those are the books that we have read and are reading. In those 2 years, so that's books. And I also wanted to talk about launches, because in these past 2 years, despite a pandemic, despite isolation, all kinds of craziness
going crazy. Yep.
And I rocked it.
We did. I mean, it's not like we rocked it without having, some craziness, some low points, because let's face it, I'm sure everybody's been on a roller coaster ride that we're all ready to get off of. Right.
Yeah.
But exactly. I am certainly thankful that you and I were able to talk every week and talk about these books that were almost, in some ways, I found them very timely with what our chapters were very timely with what we were experiencing in the world and in our personal lives. So I thought that was definitely divine and universal timing on that. And yes, we have had some launches, and we both said to each other at the beginning of everything, we were going to come out and
stronger.
We were going to, stronger. And we were going to come out, of course, first of all, having read these books that we were reading together, but then also applying the knowledge and then making plans of action for ourselves. And I love your story. You should tell it when we finally met in person, right? At Business Mastery, which was another Tony Robbins event, which was in August of 2019. And so at that point, we finally met, and that was after about 6 months of our weekly FaceTime book club meetings. But tell everybody about what you did. So we were so jazzed. I
my God. How could you not be at one of those events?
I know.
I mean, you go out wanting to conquer the world. So I had this tug in my heart to become a life coach before I went. But during that event, I can't even tell you what it was. I don't even remember what he was talking about. But one day I was like, I'm doing it. I have to do it. And so that night I went to my hotel room and I got
you scurried to your hotel room.
See you later.
Because
you talk now.
Said, I have got to go up to my hotel room and sign up for this class right now. And I'm like, okay. It was like there's no chit chat. You were gone.
Yeah, I hit apply and I got in just in time because the new class was about to start. So like I got in at the perfect time and ended up in the best class ever. I have some lifelong friends out of that experience. And
good.
Yeah, so that launched my first of all, my, you know, investing in my future and investing in this education, and then, you know, going through it and becoming a life coach and spending the last year trying to build that. But I also launched one other thing right before COVID, and that was our the Roost, our little guest house, which was something that was on our list for a long time. And so you know, there was a whole learning curve on that too. But you know, and with the coaching business, tons of learning curves. So like I just want you know, any midlife women out there that thinks that they're too old or it's too late or whatever, that's just not true.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we are examples of that.
Well, and you know, you think about launching the Roost right before COVID. I mean, that is like, imagine for those listening, you know, you're putting your heart and soul into this remodeling of a little cute place. It's so cute. And then, you know, you have this dream of seeing all these people staying in your, you know, through Airbnb, and, you know, and then all of a sudden, whoop, all the travel stops. And, you know, I know that was a letdown, and you sailed right through it. I mean, it was hard, but you kept your chin up. And I think that's the thing that has been like an inspiration to me, is to watch you going through that, and you kept your chin up and you kept going. And not to say it wasn't hard at times, it was very hard, but that kind of comes into what I experienced during COVID, which was we were all locked down, you know, and my photography, I had a photography studio space that I absolutely adored. And, you know, business mastery, I was starting to think of different things to do with my photography business, whether I was going to continue or change the business model or whatever. There were things I was contemplating at that August Tony Robbins event. But then, you know, COVID came, and that was it. You know, I had a huge amount of overhead and zero ability to make anything. So I decided, and just luck would have it, or you could say that, or the universe, or however it ended up, that my lease was over in November of 2020. And at that point, I made the decision early on in that I wasn't going to renew that lease, that I was going to look at another option and another plan. But what happened then, when everything was shut down, I had written a novel. Writing's always been a part of my childhood. You know, I wrote plays and poems and things like that. But then I had written a novel in 2008, had finished it, and I had sent it off to a couple of different agents, and because that's what you did in those times. And, you know, it just kind of sat there. At the end of 2019, my best friend's husband, he published a historical fiction novel, and he indie published, meaning he self-published. And they were like very encouraging, and they said, you should do it. You should do it. And oh my gosh, I was so thankful that I did, because I felt without doing any photography or anything, it was like, oh my gosh, I've been working since I was 14, and they're, you know, all of a sudden, and I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of people experienced what I did. But then to have my book out, and I had 2 chapters of another book that I had just started before I put my writing kind of on the side in 2008, because life happened, divorce, and, you know, crazy things for a long time. So now fast forward to what, you know, it's like 12 years or 13 years now later. I started that, brought that book up, and wrote it, and ended up writing 3 books, almost 3 books. Yeah. Cause I finished, 3 books, wrote 3 books in 2020, published 2. And I sit back now, I'm saying that to you. I know you're smiling, because I'm kind of proud of myself. I'm
I'm
like,
proud of you. Are you kidding me?
wow, that's pretty good. And you don't really realize you can do that. You don't realize the power that you have until you get tried, until you get tried on that power, and you don't think about the scope of it. Just kind of think of what you can do right now and put your nose to the grindstone and just keep going, keep going, keep going. And then you look up finally and it's like, oh wow, look at this, it's an adventure. It's an adventure.
So I want to interject something here about what you went through. Is that you had to close your studio, and I remember the day that you had to, like, I think you even might have done a video or something, or you posted a video of when you opened it.
Yes,
I can relate because I closed my store. It was 2 years earlier, but the heartache of letting go of one dream so you can go for another dream. I mean, it's like, it's hard to put into words, but it is grief and excitement in the same breath. I mean, it's just, it's hard to explain, but I knew what you were going through. I knew exactly how you felt. I could feel it. I could see it in your posts. And yet you came out with, like, I ordered your new book, but I haven't gotten it, but this was the one that 2008, right? Jade Butterfly.
No, actually, Queen Anne's Lace was the first one.
That's
this is the one that, but you've got the 2020 books.
Yeah, I have that one on Audible, I think, on a, anyways. And then this is so good. The Cotton Blossom is so good. So tell us about your latest launch. You are launching tomorrow.
I am. The official launch is tomorrow, which is Eyes of the Peacock, which is here.
So beautiful.
I know. I love it. I just love this cover. I'm in love with it. Even though, it might sound kind of boastful, but out of all the covers, I think I probably like this one or love this one the most, but they're all like my children. So I guess you can't really call favoritism on any of your children, but I'm so excited. I love writing about history and historical time periods. Like the Cotton Blossom was in the 1950s. The Jade Butterfly was present day in the 1960s, 70s. Again, Queen Anne's Lace was 1985 and the 1960s, 70s. So I kind of tend to keep at that where I've continually writing in the past. And I'm in love with all the characters, but I say that every time because, they are people to me and they live in my mind. And, I write their stories. And then, I think I put an Instagram post the other day, and it's really kind of incredible. And this could be for anyone, not just for someone that's written a book, but when you think a thought and you actually act on it and you create something tangible from it, there is just an amazing sense of joy and accomplishment when that happens. And I know because you've done the same thing with different things, but I am really excited about it. I can't wait for people to meet the characters. And it's this one's set in 2018 and 1928. And there are lots of twists and turns and surprises. So
I cannot wait to read it.
I'm really excited.
So one thing I love about you is your imagination. So a lot of the books that we've read have tried to get us to use our imagination and, visualize and all this stuff. You are amazing at it. So tell me, or tell us all, I know that you see your characters in your head, and how does that work?
God, I wish I could tell you how that works because I don't really understand. I don't understand sometimes how it works, but I'll tell you how initially, usually I will see and this is actually, it's kind of interesting because when I would create photography, it would happen in a similar way. I would get a vision of a scene, or in case of photography, like an image. And usually, it's the scene that I visualize is something like, maybe usually it's an opening scene, or this particular novel, The Eyes of the Peacock, started with a poem that I had written a long time ago. And it's about love through the ages, so to speak. And I always have, that kind of theme has always interested me through books and movies and films. So I think one of the first scenes that I saw in my head was one of the main characters having an accident. And so then I started, and then this other character kind of came into my mind, and it's just like a snippet. It's just like a little bit of a, almost like a film reel going in my head. And then, and then what happens at that point is I think, well, is there a story here? And then I start to think, well, what's going to happen? And some of the best things, or best problems, or scenes that I work out in the books are when I'm walking my dogs. So if I'm stuck, I'll say, okay, it's just time to go do something mindless. And then it's like, oh my gosh, one of the complete scenes in Jade Butterfly was completely materialized on a dog walk. So
that is so cool.
I think cool. Einstein did that kind of thing too. Like when he talked about, and I think probably people do this by running and showering, driving. So it's not necessarily dog walking, but Einstein talked about when he was struggling to find answers to problems, he would get up and play his violin. I don't think he was like a virtuoso. I think that's the right word, but I don't think he was like a master at the violin, but he just liked to play. So he would play. And then he said, after doing that, the solution would come to him. So I think sometimes, and I know I would love for you to speak to this, is that sometimes we get too wrapped up in a solution, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are committed to the outcome.
Yeah.
All the time. And that's when we get in trouble, because, creativity and imagination and intuitive, urges come when we're not balled up and contracted and stressed. So we can't allow it to come because we're so, or committed to believing a certain thing. So this year, one of my goals is to tap into my intuition more. Mm-hmm. And that has been inspired by these books that we have read, like Becoming Supernatural. I mean, you can totally tap into your creativity by meditating, for sure. I mean, that's where he would say he would start, is meditating. But you can also meditate while you're walking. I mean, there's a whole chapter on that. So I think it's just letting go of your insisting on your way.
Thank you. And I was just going to say, one of my biggest things that I've taken away from all that we've read, and it keeps coming back to us over and over again in different books, but I always say the universe will keep giving you the same lesson until you learn it. Yeah. But one of the big things for me is impatience on the how. So, you decide you're going to do something and you want to control how that's going to happen. You think, okay, I'm going to, because I'm a planner too. So I like to write out everything. And then at that point, I'm thinking, well, this and this and this, but sometimes you're given the gift of an outcome, and it's not exactly how you would have ever planned it. Right. So if you're not open to receiving another option or another way, then you could possibly miss out. Right. Yeah. That's one of the big things that I'm going to keep practicing this year.
I'm going to look and see if I don't know if I'm not doing this right, but I can't quite see if there's anybody on there. But one thing we can do is afterwards, even when people watch the replay, we can watch the comments, and like you and I can both answer questions if they come up in comments.
That's perfect.
Later.
Perfect.
Wow, this is so much fun. So 2 years of book club, celebrating live, sharing it with other people, and sharing our books and our launches, hopefully inspiring other people. What were you going to say?
I hope so. I was just going to say, when you reached out to me, or when we ended our last week's book club, you said, oh yeah, it's our anniversary, which I think that's really cool. I didn't realize it was our anniversary.
Well,
but
it's
which is
definitely I don't know the first time we started. I'd have to research that on Facebook maybe, but definitely it's been 2 years since I unleashed the power within. So
yeah, definitely.
What a wild journey.
It has been, and I wouldn't want to do it without you.
Me neither.
because we have really, each time, I mean, we've went through different things around in the world, our personal stories, and just sending texts back and forth on different things that we've read in the books has been really kind of uplifting to be able to have that companionship or camaraderie with with someone else who's reading the same, that's reading the same thing, and to be able to say, oh yeah, or we send each other the quotes from the books. That's been kind of
what's fun is when we do that and we don't even realize we're sending it at the exact time it needed to be sent.
Oh, absolutely.
So fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there was the time that I sent you a little bit of the racy bits from the Goddess. I think you were with your family or something, but I was like, oh my gosh, this was so good.
You
so
gotta love Dr. Northrup.
I do. I couldn't help myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is because I had gotten to that part and I wasn't sure where you were in that particular chapter, but
yeah,
it's kind of like two little schoolgirls going, hee hee hee.
Did you hear? Yeah.
Oh, but that's all right. So I was going to ask you about, you mentioned earlier about the midlife women, and, your stories that you've shared, especially the one where the lady who sang in the rock group, one of your coaches that I mean, I think that's really, really important for any women that are listening, or anybody, women, but anybody really. You're never too old,
That is the perfect story to end with.
Okay, cool.
So her name is Janet, and she is a life coach at the Life Coach School, and she's one of my favorites. She's in her 70s, and I plugged into one of her, we're able to watch classes, every week there's so many different classes that we can plug into. And she was talking about changing your mindset to, wouldn't it be amazing if?
Okay. Yep.
So her whole thing was, wouldn't it be amazing if, and just trying to get us to dream or to think outside of what we know is possible. Wouldn't it be amazing if? And so she shared a story about her own life that she said she'd always wanted to be the lead singer of a rock band. And so she started saying to herself, nobody knew. Wouldn't it be amazing if I was the lead singer of a rock band? And so she was at some outdoor event with somebody that had a band, and she said, oh, I'd always thought it would be so amazing if I was the lead singer of a rock band. And that week he emailed her and said, hey, we have a song. We would love a woman's voice for it, a female voice. Would you want to come on and sing with us? And she's like, yes. So she became the lead singer of a rock band in her 70s. So
there you go.
Anything is possible. And wouldn't it be amazing if?
And wouldn't it be amazing if? I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, I thank you for coming on. I
think it's a great idea. I'm glad
love sharing you with the world.
Right back at you.
Book club.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're inspiring some of these women out there to go and launch. Just do it.
Ship it. as Seth Godin would say, just ship it.
Ship
It doesn't,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's going to resonate with who it's supposed to resonate with.
Yep.
And it's not your job to judge it. So just ship it.
Just ship it. Well, thanks, Dawn. I love
All
it.
right.
I will
You
talk
have a
to
great
soon.
day.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.